JD Vance has a new book out. It's called Communion, Finding My Way Back to Faith. The Veep's making the rounds to talk about it, including a stop by the hen house at Daytime TV.
He just said he loves the inflation.
What he said, Anna, what he said is that he loves the fact that the inflation is going to come down when this war is over. That's what he said.
That's not what he said.
That wasn't a direct. Are you his interpreter or are you his vice president? Come on. Okay, so in the book, Mr. Vice President, you make a mea culpa of sorts for calling Democrats childless cat ladies.
Oh, man.
Okay.
My most boneheaded comment.
You say that.
So Joy said when we were off air that I'm fine, which I think is about the best endorsement that I'm going to get out of Joy Behar for a Republican. Thank you.
There you go. Man, if they actually understood context, they wouldn't have a show. Everything they do is out of context. I want to ask you about the title or the tagline, Finding My Way Back to Faith, which leads to the question, how did you first lose your way?
Yeah, so I want to answer your question, Greg, but Communion is the book, and I got to say, look, man, I've been on the show for all of a half an hour. It's appropriate this is about faith and religion because y'all need Jesus. That's my takeaway after 30 minutes. But the way that I lost my faith is fundamentally, it just didn't seem all that relevant to me. I was raised in the faith. I fell away from it like a lot of teenagers. And, you know, in my life, I cared way too much about things that people care too much about. I cared about where I went to school, cared way too much about how much money I made, what kind of job I had. And I started to realize when I got into my 20s and I, fell in love with the woman who's now the second lady and we're getting ready to have babies. And I started thinking to myself, okay, am I actually becoming the kind of person I want to become? And the answer was no. And then I thought more about it and said, well, why is it that the Christians in my life, the people I dismissed as bumpkins or sort of simple, why do they have it all figured out? They're better people, they're happier, they're much more well-adjusted than the people I was around at Yale Law School. Maybe there's some truth to this creed that forms the foundation of their life. And maybe there's truth to the fact that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. So that's ultimately what got me back on the path. And then the book is really about where I went from curious about Christianity to eventually finding my home in a church and raising my family in that church. So, I think it's a cool story. I wrote the book. I should think it's a cool story, or that would be bad news. But I'd encourage everybody to take a look at it.
It is a cool story. I have two questions. The first one is, I was very impressed with Charlie Kirk's ability to keep the Sabbath and his suggestion that we all do that. And I remember Lawrence Jones and I saying, we should really do that. And I was like, can you do that? I don't know. Can you do? I mean, do you try?
I try very hard, but it's basically impossible when you're the vice president because there are always crises coming up in the world. Yeah. There are always things, people always have to reach you, and so you can't just set your phone to the side and not touch it. But I do take this lesson from Charlie, which is that, people can always reach me, and they always do. But I don't keep my phone around my kids. I try not to stare at it all the time. I try to actually make sure my kids and my family get proper attention, even knowing that somebody might come in from downstairs and interrupt me because there's some crisis in the world. But I think it was a really amazing thing that Charlie Kirk did. And again, it's one of these evidences the reason God gave us the Sabbath is so that we would spend more time with our family, so that we would actually focus on the things that matter. And the fact that we've just discarded this is, I think, to the detriment of pretty much all of us.
My second question, sorry guys, is I think it's remarkable to become a Catholic and then meet the Pope.
Yeah.
Because that's different. Like when I'm Lutheran, so we were in line to meet the Pope. We were running late. I was like, you know what? Bill McGurn, you take my spot, because I knew it mattered more to him at that moment than it did to me. And you also were able to be with the Pope's brother at the UFC fight, which I think is so remarkable.
He's an amazing guy, a Navy veteran, just really kind of a MAGA guy. He loves the president. He loves the policies, obviously. But more than that, is just a good dude. And it's kind of amazing. You can tell how proud he is of his brother. Imagine how crazy that is. Yeah. You're a Catholic. Your brother goes from sort of unknown to a cardinal to a pope in 3 years. And there was this hilarious thing because we actually brought him to the Pope's inaugural mass. And of course, when he saw his brother, he gave him a hug because it's his brother. And this became a thing in the European press, who is this American hugging the Pope? His brother. Give the guy a break.
Yeah.
Well, if my brother became more famous than me, I'd probably be really jealous. So
Do you have a brother?
No, thank God. If I did, I'd be more famous, darn it.
It's good that you can admit that, Jesse.
So I was a C&E Christian, only went on Christmas and Easter, didn't really get involved in the church that heavily until Charlie was killed Greg and I and Harold started doing Bible study. We call it study, we text in the morning when we read passages. And something's just struck me the last week when I've been really focusing on my relationship with God. And you can speak to him and he can speak to you and you can kind of give away your worries to him. Do you find yourself as vice president during the day when stuff's hitting the fan or you're in a tense moment, flying to Islamabad, communicating with the Lord?
All the time, man, especially in the most stressful, the most intense moments, because you need to be centered and you need to have your eyes on the right thing. And sometimes I just talk to God. I say, God, give me wisdom and courage because I need both right now. And you just feel this sense, not always that you know exactly what to do, but that you're in the right mindset and you have the humility about the decisions that you have to make. So absolutely, I could not do this job were it not for my faith. And I think that's probably true for a lot of people. And I think it makes us all better leaders when we recognize that, you know, we don't know everything. There needs to be a little bit of humility about the way that we do our jobs.
Humility. Yeah, I'm getting
You should try that.
That's next week. That's next week in the Bible study.
I'm going to try to sneak in two quick ones as well. So, you know, increasingly across the country, people are running multi-faith households, and you guys are as well. How do you do that and, you know, bring that to life for your children?
Yeah, you know, we just don't actually think about it that much, right? My wife has her faith. She was raised in a Hindu household. I was raised in a Christian household, fell away and came back. And we just talk about things with each other. I think she's the most interesting person in the world. She always has an interesting perspective. Like, for example, there's an ancient Hindu text where the very first line is, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, which, if you know, is the first verse in John, in some ways the most important gospel. So there are all these fascinating parallels and interesting thoughts that she has, but we've decided to raise our kids Christian because we just don't want them to be confused. But they know mom's views, they ask her questions, and they're very curious. And I think it makes our household interesting. There's a certain dynamism to it, but it works for us, and we just try not to think too much about it.
And then really quickly, slightly political, how do you process Pope Leo's criticisms of the administration, you know, on war and, you know, treatment of migrants?
So the way that I think about it, first of all, you know, I do think that the media, not saying you, but the media often tries to treat the Pope as this sort of far left guy, where he said it's reasonable for a nation to have borders. It's reasonable for a nation to enforce its borders. Yes, he has said some critical things, but the way that I take it is I try to listen and I try to understand the perspective, but fundamentally, the job that I have is to apply moral principles to the problems that exist. I certainly think the Pope is going to have interesting views on that. I certainly take those views under consideration, but it's not my job to sort of say, well, just because the Pope disagrees with me, I'm going to do something different for the American people. I think he has his role. I have my role. The president has his role. And the Pope's role is as a preacher of the gospel, certainly an important moral voice. But I think somebody where you got to weigh everything. You got to say, absolutely, we can treat people humanely. We can also have a border. Part of my job is to balance those things. I think part of the Pope's job is to remind us that we have to always be engaged in that moral balancing act.
All right.
Great.
I'm not in the acknowledgments again.
He always checks.
All right, check out his new book, Communion.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.